Breaking news, Arsenal fans. Today we got the news we were praying for as Arsenal fans, because we know our team is stacked right now. We've just come off a 3-0 win against Man City in a Community Shield final. I made a video on that already. And we're in a very good place with the squad. Added Bruno Guimaraes, obviously, and Solis to an already very good squad. And the depth is looking phenomenal. But the one area of our team that we could always improve has been our attack. And today, The Athletic have come out with an article talking about Arsenal wanting to add to their attack before deadline day. We're going to be speaking all about that in today's video. Let's get straight into it. Now, as you can see on the screen, Arsenal would like to augment their attack. Their focus has been on the left wing, but there is some flexibility around this should the right forward become available. The club have long-term targets such as Yildiz and Alvarez and are waiting to see if the market renders one available. This is very, very interesting. This is kind of like the Vinny stuff where we waited, saw an opportunity to sneak in and possibly get him if he didn't extend his contract. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. Now, it's very different situations with Kenan, Yıldız and Julian Alvarez. We know Kenan, Yıldız, it's a bit of a sticky situation there because he's just signed a new long-term deal at Juventus. So I think the price to get him out of that contract is going to be very, very expensive. In my personal opinion, with the market rates as well, Juve would probably want minimum 100 million. Maybe euros, but I doubt it. I think it would take probably one of the most, if not the most expensive sale in Italian football history to get him out. Like, I'm just being so honest. He's 21 years old, very exciting young Turkish talent, and he's arguably the best player in the Serie A. Definitely the best winger, that's for sure. So, at a young age, with the potential he could possibly hit, it's going to be an expensive deal. Julian Alvarez, similarly, very expensive potential deal. We know Atletico Madrid are refusing to sell him to Barcelona. There's been a lot of developments with that. Breaking news today, which I'll get onto. But yeah, Julian Alvarez is untouchable for Atletico Madrid. We know he wants to fulfill his dream and go to Barcelona. He said that in the World Cup, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. There's no way on earth Atleti are selling him to a rival club. Unless it's for 500 mil release clause that they keep mentioning, which is hilarious. But yeah, I just don't see that move happening as much as he wants it. I doubt it. Now, Gunner Blog also summarised the article here. If you want to go read it, I recommend The Athletic. They're very good. Konsa's still a top target as centre-back. Arsenal following market developments on attackers, including Alvarez and Yıldız, because they've been admired by us for a very long time. We know this. I've covered that before. We want this young striker as well from Blackburn, I believe. And Martinelli and Nwaneri could leave, which we know has been reported a lot. Now, some journalists out here revealed exclusively that Arsenal and Arteta consider Yildiz a dream target. That's very interesting. And this was back in June. And he's reiterated this. So take that what you will. I mean, I'm not too familiar with this guy, so you got to be careful with your sources. But he's got kind of reputation on X, so that is interesting. Now, we know Arsenal received a 45 million euro offer for Martinelli, and Arsenal have put him on the transfer list. The 25-year-old, he's not untouchable, that's for sure. And if an attractive offer were to arrive, we'd consider it for sure. He's got one more year on his deal, and Galatasaray want to obviously add him to their squad, but he's not pushing for the exit. He's comfy on the wages he's on. But Ornstein also confirmed that Martinelli does not want to join Galatasaray. He would want to stay in the top 5 leagues, which is fair enough for him. But obviously not ideal for Arsenal, who want to sell players. We know Jesus and Martinelli were out the squad of the Man City game. Sami Mokbel has also said that Andre Berta is leaning on connections in Turkey to generate sales, with Trossard already joining, and Galatasaray interested in both Ethan and Martinelli. But we know Martinelli does not want to go there. Ethan Nwaneri has been confirmed that he will leave Arsenal before the summer window. I've already talked about this in several videos. Gutting, to say the least, but for his career, you can see why it would be the best for him, if we're being honest. But I just pray it's a loan deal or a buyback clause in the contract for a certain fee if he starts cooking elsewhere, which I think he will. He's got such a high ceiling. I think he'll ball out in wherever he goes. Now, we know Nwaneri, according to a lot of people, I haven't heard this from anyone like Ornstein or Fabrizio, but during contract negotiations last year, Ethan specifically said he does not want to play on the right wing and he only wants to play centrally, which they cannot guarantee in minutes, obviously. And Ethan obviously backed himself and agreed to that. So that's very interesting, and that makes a lot more sense as to why we're more likely to get rid of him and why we haven't seen him on the right since like 2 seasons ago, guys. Remember when he was first breaking out properly, obviously he made his debut at 15, but when he was properly involved in the squad, 24-25 season, he was played on the right a few times and he looked very good. But he is a natural 10 and he's backed himself to be that. Now we know Eze, Odegaard are ahead of him there. Even Dalman, I know Dalman can play on the right as well, but Dalman is a 10 as well. So there's a lot of people ahead of him in that position. And I think if he does want to play 10, we obviously can't guarantee him minutes. So that's very interesting, which is something I'd completely forgotten about. So if people are still pissed at the exit saying, why are we keeping Noni over Ethan, for example, this is why. Because he does not want to play on the right wing, guys. Now, we know Jesus has been attracting interest from Napoli, but the problem is with Jesus, his contract is mental right now. So they'd have to considerably lower his wage demand, and also they'd have to sell someone else, not just Lukaku, because we know the finances in the Serie A is completely different to the Premier League. We've seen links to Osimhen with a lot of reports from Turkey coming out saying Arteta's one of his top targets is Osimhen. I doubted this at the time because we've already got Havertz, Gyökeres and Jesus. Jesus possibly leaving. I still don't think you need 3 strikers. Like, let's be honest. You need 1 and a backup. Gyökeres, Havertz. Like, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, it's not the best. But why would you buy Osimhen if you're not going to guarantee him starting most games? It just doesn't make sense to me. Now, we know the Telegraph also reported this. Very interesting. A lot of these reports. But the Athletic, there is some flexibility should the right forward become available. Long-term targets, Yildiz and Alvarez. But they can pivot to alternative targets. Who those alternative targets are, we'll have to wait and see. But it's very, very interesting. We've seen a lot of so-called ITKs out there and people speculating that the list of alternative attackers include Leao, Nusa and Jai. Musiala, I highly doubt. Endrick as well, who's confirmed staying at Madrid. So there isn't many players out there. Unless we're going to pull off a shock and go for someone else from a big club, then I'm not too sure with that, who we're going to go for instead. Now, we know, I've said in other videos, why don't we try for Barcola? But we know with Barcola, Liverpool are pretty much a one-horse race for him. We know he's agreed personal terms, so he is pretty much set to go to Liverpool. Liverpool still consider the possibility of bringing in 2 wingers, depending on Gakpo to Tottenham, which is looking more and more likely. Rio apparently is getting pushed to the right-hand side, which a lot of Liverpool fans aren't happy with. And I tend to agree with that. When a player is developing at a young age and he's naturally a left winger, why would you move him to the right? It just disrupts the development. But, hey, they really want Barcola. And it looks like they're going to get him. He wasn't on the bench in their Coupe de France game that they lost to Lens. And no issues on personal terms both ways. So it looks like Gakpo out, Barcola in. That could be the sign sealed if Gakpo leaves. Obviously, it depends on the financial agreement. So this is the thing that's been halting the Barcola deal. Like, we know that Liverpool have wanted him for ages now. He's been their number 1 target. He agreed personal terms weeks ago. But it's the financial thing with PSG. They don't want under a certain amount, and they are pushing for way above 100 million euros. Like, you're looking at 120 million euros at this point from reports that I've seen. But we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. But it's looking like it's just stalled for now. It's stalled for now. So there is a potential to swoop in and hijack. But once the players agreed personal terms, we know with Rodgers it happened to us. Another team can come in and slap the money down. But it's up to the player at the end of the day. If he's made clear he only wants to go to Liverpool and he's aware of possible interest from Arsenal, then he's going to go to Liverpool more likely than not. But we don't know about Arsenal and Barcola. There hasn't been any reports of it, like concrete ones. So we're going to have to wait and see. But that is a possible alternative if he doesn't go to Liverpool. Now, obviously, Enrique's basically confirmed they're going to leave pretty much by saying he'll talk about it after the transfer window. Maybe there's a world they both stay, but I really doubt it. They seem to be out of the project, especially with the arrival of Mika Götze, Ferran Torres, and Akliouche all coming into the attack. Like, with Doué, Kvaratskhelia and Dembele. Yeah, there's no chance that is not replacing Mbaye and Barcola, who Mbaye's obviously can leave. Liverpool spoke to the agents and Mbaye likes the project, but the valuation from PSG is too high. PSG don't play around with fees, man. They will get mad fees. They got 70 mil for Gonzalo Ramos, roughly. That is mental for a backup striker. So they're not playing around, man. They're going to get a very, very good fee for both of the players. Now, Alvarez, we know, Simeone's announced today that he will stay, pointing at the club's decision. If the owner has expressed himself so firmly, there's not much more to add. It's like in court, there's no longer any room for doubt. So that's very interesting. This is looking more and more like Alvarez is staying. Alvarez is going to stay unless he opens the door to an overseas move. This is what I'm thinking. This is why, with Arsenal, we know we are a long-term admirer of him, as shown in the Athletic article, and this has been throughout the summer. Could he open the doors to a foreign move? Because we know Barca, they're not going to get him at this point, guys. There's no way they're going to sell him to them. And if he really wants to leave, then he may have to go overseas. But I'm not so sure with that. And what fee would it cost? A lot of money. That's for sure. So, interesting stuff. Now, we know Barcelona have been looking at alternatives with Luis Suarez from Sporting be a possibility. I've seen reports about Gyökeres to Barcelona, an alternative to Ferran Torres. Fabrizio, I watched his video last night and he said that there's no concrete reports of this. No concrete interest, so far. So we'll have to wait and see with this one. But it looks like Havertz may be our starting striker beginning of the season. But I still think we'll have our use for Gyökeres. He's not a bad player. I'm not jumping on this whole Gyökeres hate argument. Yes, he's not the best technically, but he scored 14 goals for us last season, helped us win the league. We got to respect him a bit more, man. I don't like this narrative about him, but if the right fee comes in, maybe he'd look elsewhere. Barcelona is a whole different ballgame when it comes to moving to a club. So it would be very, very interesting. But, hey, I still think he'll get games for us next season. Now, we know we're interested in Gerald Kwanzaa as a backup in defence, with Fabrizio and Ornstein confirming this. But they don't want to sell him, that's for sure. And Kwanzaa, the same thing, with obviously Romero going to Atletico Madrid. He was a possibility. Kwanzaa's the preferred target. The issue is the valuation of 60 mil, which Villa are not bluffing on, which is crazy. Kwanzaa would be open to the move, and Kwanzaa would be open to the move too, but it's about the club-to-club stuff with that. And I still am in the camp of, do we actually need a defensive backup? Like, I'd rather go for a right-back because of Timber's injuries and Ben White's injury struggles. That's what I've been seeing, like, reports of that. That would make a lot more sense with our left-hand side kind of sorted. But Hincapié can also fill in at centre-back. So we've got Marley Salmon, obviously, but we've got Mosquera. I don't know, man. Do we need to spend ridiculous amounts on a backup? But that is for another day. Now, we know that the whole Rodri saga with him basically turning down Madrid after Madrid took too long. He agreed to join Madrid. He was twerking for them in the summer. And then Madrid basically took way too long. And Barcelona came in and Rodri said, you know what? If Madrid aren't trying for me, I'm going to go to Barcelona, which is absolutely insane. We know that, Madrid were in talk for weeks. What an absolute fumble. But it was about the club-to-club stuff. And Rodri eventually got his head turned. And Barcelona made 3 proposals for Rodri. And we know that they wanted 80 million euros. But it got, here we go. Here we go. Rodri to Barcelona, guys. Oh my word. This is absolutely insane. Former Ballon d'Or winner. Insane World Cup campaign. And he's been added to Barcelona. Football heritage. Oh my word. This Barcelona team is looking insane with Rodri there. Added to De Jong, Dani Olmo, Pedri. What the hell, man? What are we doing here? Yamal as well? Flipping out. This is looking scary for everyone. I'm going to be so honest. I'm really not looking forward to the possibility of facing Barcelona in anything. Let's be honest. But it's a worry for Real Madrid because they needed Rodri so badly in that midfield. He was more important for them than anyone else. Vinny staying, anything else. Now, the package is apparently 76.5 million euros, which is very interesting. 60 plus 11 add-ons. It's a good fee for a 30-year-old with his final 12 months of the contract. But, hey, this is a big deal for Barca, man. They've added Cancelo as well, which we knew was kind of imminent, adding a lot more players. And this is very, very interesting with the whole saga there. Rodri replacement is obviously going to be Bouaddi. We know they've added Anderson. And Bouaddi's 18, but he's a very talented kid from Lille. He looks so good. Technically brilliant, and he's been playing senior football for years. So this is one for the future. But is it enough to replace Rodri? I really don't think so. They're going to really struggle next season without him in the midfield. No Pep either. Those two are massive blows for City, let's be honest. But we know they've been interested in Enzo Fernández. They didn't receive a bid of 120 mil before their deadline, which they called basically it was kind of a release clause. If they paid the 120, Chelsea were happy to sell him because that would have been a mad valuation. But we know they consider him no longer available. But City are still interested. Like, City have a lot of power too when it comes to agreeing deals with players. So this one isn't done just yet before the deadline. We know Harry Kane is in talks with a new contract for Bayern Munich. Seen reports about Barcelona and teams interested, but them keeping him is crucial for the next season at least. But he's not slowing down at all. He looks still at the top of his game in his 30s. Same with Bruno, who Man U offered a contract to in May. Talks are ongoing, but Bruno's attracting a lot of interest from Turkey. We've seen the Turkish Super League this year with Salah going, Trossard going, Lukaku going. It's mental. Like, a lot of people are going there. Osimhen's already there. And it's a lot of money in that league. And it's not a top 5 league, but it's still a massive league. Like, it's definitely bigger than the Saudi League, for example. And the new deal is negotiations are continuing on the length. There's a 65 million euro release clause apparently in the contract, which is insane because I know he's 31 or whatever, but that in this market is crazy. Now, I'm not sure if that's for the Turkish league. I doubt it. It's probably for top 5 leagues only. But that's very interesting. I think a lot of teams should be over that, if we're being honest, for experience. But maybe there's something more to it. But let me know what you guys think of everything in this video I've mentioned. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe if you're new. Comment down below your thoughts. Follow my socials. The links are in the description. But it's been Jay-Z Knows Ball, and I'm out. Peace out, guys. Take care.